Richard Pochettino, though, was not pleased about what he saw in the second.
I am so pleased. The first 45 minutes is in the way that we want to grow and build our journey together. And I think it was fantastic to see the player perform. It's true that in the second half, I'm going a little bit in advance, that we didn't approach the game in the way that we wanted. We were talking about that the challenge was the second half is to win the second half. And that was only the thing that was a little bit worried, not to go to the second half with the same mentality and the same aggressivity and the approach that we started the first half. And that happened. I think that is, we can call mentality or we can call or use different word, but I think it's things that we still need to improve.
That's a bit harsh, though, Kasey. You're 4-0 up, you're through to the semi-finals. Inevitably, you can take the eye off the ball a little bit, aren't you?
Well, you were 3-0 up, and then you went to 3-1.
I was talking about the aggregate score, Kasey, because they won 1-0 in Jamaica.
Yes,
and if you don't, so 4-0 up.
Oh, correct. He wanted to win the second half, Dan, and clearly he did not do that. But yes, it was one of those situations where you expect your team to be more professional, particularly against a side that you know you were dominating so comfortably. And to lose the concentration, but also kind of lose that edge, because that's really what you're looking to do. I mean, the best teams in the world know how to be attack-minded, but also be secure in the back. And particularly when you're playing a side that shouldn't be able to trouble you, particularly with some of the key players not playing for them. And so to go into that second half and just kind of switch off. And I think that's what gets worrying, because it's one thing when you switch off when you're 4-0 up on aggregate. It's another thing when you switch off just because you think you've already gotten through. And look, you want your players to be 90-minute players. I think we saw in the first half at 1-0 up with the first half in the first game, with 1-0 up, a chance to go 2-0 up. Then you understand where they got a little bit conservative in the second half, conceding the penalty and then getting the save and then thinking, okay, let's make sure we keep a win here. Then when it got comfortable, you still have to be professional. And I think clearly that's a frustration, and that's part of that attitude that you want to make sure that every player in your team has, that you don't switch off in a game, that you fight for every chance you get. And let's be honest, we talked about it the other day. This is an 18 to 20 month preseason for this team. There's really no games that matter until the World Cup. And every player is going to have those opportunities. And when they have those opportunities, they have to let the coach know that I am the guy that you can count on come that first game in the World Cup. And if I see somebody switching off, and I know this from my time working with Jurgen, you look at little things throughout, and if you make a comment to somebody and you say to them, hey, I need you to do this in this match in this second half, and you see they're not capable of doing that in this game, where do you think that player is going to be come a match that really matters under serious pressure? So every player has to understand that they're on trial every time they step on the pitch, and don't give anybody an opportunity because you decided to take your foot off the gas.
Jurgen?
Yeah, absolutely. This is not easy. I mean, for Pochettino, it's not easy. For the players, it's not easy. Now looking at the next 18 months, without having real games, because, the games that you wish for, that would be a Copa America games, that would be games against Brazil, Argentina, Colombia, or the England, Germany, Spain in Europe, just to measure yourself. So you as a manager, you have the challenge to explain to players, you probably sound like a broken record after a little while, how important every little minute on the field is when you get those games, and if it's against Jamaica or Guatemala or Costa Rica, that you really take those games very seriously, as serious as you can, in order to build that culture of willingness, of being resilience towards the World Cup. Because when the World Cup gets kicked off, then, and it's going to be pretty fast, the time will pass by so fast until that first game will be played. Then you got to be incredibly sharp. You got to be incredibly hungry. you really need to be able to suffer through a stretch of 2 months preparation and the tournament. It's going to be the longest tournament in history of all World Cups. First time ever with 48 teams instead of the 32 now, the last couple of World Cups. So so the conversations or the speeches that Pochettino has with his players, they are not easy for him, because you got to tell them all the time how important the little things are, how important, whatever set pieces are, tactical variations are, lifestyle issues are, and you try to have an influence on their careers in their club teams as well, because you stay in touch with them, you're on the phone with them, you constantly WhatsApp with them. But it's going to be intense for the coaching staff around Pochettino, and hopefully the players will buy into that process, because that opportunity that they have in 18 months from now, that opportunity is huge, and it will never come back again.